And I said, God, whatever you want to do with me, if you'll equip me, I'll do it. He brought me out of a rice field to a pulpit. From mud to a mansion.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Mud to a Mansion. I'm Brother Curt Howard, pastor here at Maple Springs Baptist Church, and I got one of my really good friends today. I don't got many, so you're in the top. Yeah, you're in the top 5. You're one of my top 5 friends.
I'm honored.
We may not be after this, but David McClain's with me today, and he's been a friend for a lot of years, and I guess we're the same age, ain't we? Are you 59 yet?
Yeah, but I'm 59 in February.
Oh, February.
So you'll never
March,
be
April,
as
May.
old as I am.
Okay,
So.
you're older than me. 3 months
right.
older than me. And just to think, I was 3 months from being born when you was born. This world in 1966, everything started falling apart, didn't it? So
Yeah.
My goodness. But he's a friend of mine, and we're going to try to do some of these on our podcast where I get some of my church members. It kind of holds them, makes them. Then it'd be harder to quit church after we do one of these. You'd be like, I'd like to leave that place, but they did that podcast on me, so I'm going to make everybody swear to an oath that's on here that they'll never leave Maple Springs back. You know what's up?
I don't know how to break that chain. You would have to break a chain. I don't know how to do that. So
No.
I'm pretty content. I'm pretty satisfied where I'm at.
Yeah, I know
so.
you are. And
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that if I didn't mean it, but I always tell them we got T-shirts that says Maple Springs Baptist Church, and then we got some that says I used to go to Maple Springs. So we got those for those that's leaving, and then I got some that's reversible that says Maple Springs Baptist Church, and you can reverse it, and it's got another church. I ain't gonna tell which one of my buddies it says, but that way if they get caught and they get their mug shot done, they can reverse it.
Yeah.
And it says I'm a member of some other church. So all you pastors just have to figure out which one it is. But David's my friend, and I'm glad he's here today. And like I said, we're going to try to do some of these with some of our church folks, just so people get to know who they are more, a little bit more than just shaking hands. And we don't have a lot of time to visit a lot of times. But so anyway, we're going to talk a little bit first about his family. Man, he's like me. His wife's made some bad decisions in their life.
Yeah, I'm probably the worst, but and she wouldn't say that. She would.
No, she loves you.
She's wonderful. We dated
Yes.
at 15, and then off and on through college a little bit, and then she went and made pretty good choices, and I got out of college and just made choices. We'll just leave it at that. But and she, her husband passed away in 2014 from a bad surgery procedure. And, of course, my children's mom passed away in 2016, and we met up at Walmart.
Awesome. At Walmart's. It's
Yeah.
got a Z in it in Arkansas. Walmart's.
Yeah, Walmart's. And I went in for Q-tips and
Q-tips.
and left with a wife. Not at that point, but rekindled.
That's
It took her
kinda like
41 years to realize she couldn't live without me.
That's kind of like your Mud to a Mansion
Yeah,
story then,
yeah.
because you went to get Q-tips in Walmart.
And I'll tell you, she's a mansion.
She
to me.
is.
She is.
You
She's
got
wonderful.
blessed. Yeah.
She bit off a big chunk with me and my family dynamic that we
Yeah.
have. And she's been wonderful so far.
So what about your family? Kids?
Well,
Yeah,
I've got,
you got
I don't know how many, but a lot of them. I've got
you're not Duggars.
4 and a half. I've got a 26-year-old daughter, a 31-year-old son, a 25-year-old bonus daughter who just graduated at med school with an MD. And then I have a 17 and an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
And the 18-year-old is special needs. He has Duchenne muscular dystrophy. So he is completely non-ambulatory, but he's a very inspiring young man. He is, if you met him. He's very smart. He's got a level head sometimes, and but he's very inspirational to a lot of people, even in the church. And I know that because they respond that way to him. So I'm proud of him. Yeah. And my daughter's just wonderful. She's just a gem. My 17-year-old. Yeah.
Yeah. They're good kids, and y'all's family's a blessing. And Missy's she's a awesome woman to take on you, and not joking that the situation. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean
she is just
enormous
she's
heart.
really got a wonderful heart.
That's right, because a lot of people wouldn't do that. There's love, and then there's boundaries of that when it's flesh love like we have here, and with David, and Addie and her daughter being grown. She took an incredible leap to accept us for what we were. So,
and your other two have grandkids.
Oh, they're the best. Yeah.
So
You know, my grandkids are a lot better than your grandkids.
Well, we're fixing to get an argument now. So yeah.
Yeah, if
I'll-
I'd have known how good
I'll
they
pull
were,
my coffee
there you
mug
go.
out, so.
I would have had them first.
Yeah, that's true.
I would. I know of one child I might have skipped to have the grandkids, but no, I love them all. They're all wonderful.
Oh my, yeah, that's. I was the youngest, and the reason why mom and dad kept having kids till they got it right.
That's the way with me.
Are
And
you
then
the
my
baby?
sister, and they thought, we got to be able to do
You're the
better
baby.
than that.
You're a baby.
I'm the baby. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why
I
they
am.
said, why would we have another kid? We got it perfect. So
Yep. I am. My dad told me all of my life that I've been a constant embarrassment ever since he brought me home from the orphanage.
your
And
daddy,
I'm like, I am not adopted. Look at me. I look just like him.
your daddy and mom's super too.
They are.
They're members here, and I've always said it about Jerry, and I'll say it again. When I first come to Newark 12, 13 years ago and started living in Newark, I've been here 21 years now, so I've been here 7 or 8 years. But he was one of the friendliest people to me, and everybody was good, but Jerry always stopped me and talked to me, and we just hit it off from the beginning. And
He's never met a stranger.
I know, but I was trying to feel special, and then you said he was like it to everybody.
Yeah, see, he's just,
Okay.
There's really not that much to it.
But
I'm kidding.
He's got a good pastor now. Though.
Yeah, he loves his pastor.
Yeah, he is.
He loves his church.
And your mom's awesome. She's just sweet. She's just like our wives, they just have to put up with us men. So,
Well, she's had a chore.
yeah, with her kid.
No,
kid.
with him.
Okay. Well, what about your mud to a mansion story? I always ask everybody that because mud to mansion don't mean just salvation to our place that we got reserved for us in heaven, but it also means, it could be 2 or 3 different things. Mine was my call to preach from a rice field to a pulpit and getting out of my backslid state to getting back in church. So I've had about 3 different mud to mansions, but.
Well, I guess we could, most of us as Christians could testify to several events in our life
Yes.
that led to where we are in our walk with Christ. My most recent, I was saved in 1998, okay, in November of 98. And since then, there have been times, there's been mountains and molehills, there's been valleys, there's been highs, there's been lows. And as I look back at it, it's all my fault where the lows were. Yeah. Because it was making choices.
You've always admitted that.
And those choices weren't good choices, okay? But the most recent and the one thing that will open your eyes and that tugs at my heartstrings the most is I had taken my children, I'd taken a flying job in Nashville, Tennessee, flying air ambulance, a couple or 3 different fleets of airplanes there. But what had happened when we got out there, the airplanes all went in the shop for maintenance. And so the guy insisted I be there in January, and he wouldn't pay me the whole time I was there. So I moved all of my family out there. They lost their mom 14 days after we moved there, 2 little kids. This is in 2016. And I used all the money I had to move. I used all the money I had living. He wasn't paying me anything. And I'd gotten to the point to where I'd sold everything I had, and I put my children to bed one night on May the 2nd in 2017, and I went out on the back porch, and I had $3.83 in my checking account. And I had gas in my truck, but I thought, I sat there and I prayed and I said, God, I can't do this. I can't do it on my own. I don't know what I'm going to do. And the next day, I had intended on looking for a job.
Yes, sir.
Whether it be Home Depot or whether it be anywhere, because I had to have some income. And so the next morning at 8 o'clock, a friend of mine called me and said, hey, man, are you still looking for a job? And I said, I really need a job right now. He said, send me a resume. And he said, he was at FedEx, which is where I am now. And I sent him the resume, and he walked it in to a guy named Mike Bowen. Mike Bowen called me about an hour later after Jeff his name was Jeff Green, after he had received the resume. And he called me for an interview the next day. So May the 3rd, I went for an interview. And before I left, he said, go do us a drug test. I'm like, well, I'm doomed now. No, kidding. I wasn't. Yeah. But I went and did the drug test, and on the way home from Nashville, he called me and he said, "Would you do you want the gig?" I'm like, well, "Yeah." He said, "Do you even know what it is?" I'm like, "I don't care. I need a job." And he said, "Well, it's an instructor position, instructor/pilot position on the the Boeing 777." I'm like, "I'll take it." And so I got back, and about 2 days later, Miss Janet Keys, who was his secretary, called. She said, "Who would you like as a moving company?" I said, "Ma'am, I can't afford to move. I'm going to have to drive back and forth from Nashville to Memphis." She said, "Well, you won't be able to do that." I'm like, "Well, I don't have a choice." She said, "What do you mean you can't afford to move?" I'm like, "I can't afford to move."
$3 is.
And she said, "We pay for your move." She said, "Did you not read your contract?" And I said, "I don't guess I did." She said, "No, we're going to pay for your move, and we're going to give you $10,000 to put in your pocket in case you run into any unincurred expenses."
Yeah.
I mean, and I was just floored. I'm like, "Okay, whatever company you use is fine." So, all in all, you go from don't know how you're going to feed your kids
Yeah.
the next day to they sent me that $10,000 less than a week from when I sat on that back porch and said,
Wow.
"God, I cannot do this by myself.
Yeah.
I've tried and I can't do it." And I was trying to do it all on my own. And I think the reason that I bring this up is a lot of people get saved, but they don't continue in their walk because they have to leave everything that they had aside and start fresh.
Yeah.
And in the flesh, it's just hard to put your faith in one basket and say,
It
"God, I
is.
can't do this by myself. Help me." And that's he did me, and this is where I'm at.
And you've been giving back to him ever since.
I've been trying my best to get back to him
that's-
ever since. I can never repay that.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't repay the ultimate.
No. He
the
paid
ultimate
it all.
sacrifice
But
that he made. But yeah, you try to do that by trying to be faithful, by trying to do the best you can. I sin every day, can't help it. But we try to do the best that we can with what we're given
well,
to work with.
we don't owe him anything for salvation.
No.
It was free.
That was
But
free.
we owe him everything else, I say.
Absolutely.
All the time.
Absolutely.
I owe him my service, and I'm thankful for what he done. But so it was 16s when that took place.
2017, I moved in 2017, January the 2nd. I moved in my house. On the 16th, they lost their mom. And on May the 19th, I started a basic NDOT class at FedEx. Started training there.
That's about the time you got back in church.
Oh, well, I was going to church out there.
But, I mean, when you got here.
When
you
I got back
in,
there, yeah.
and-
As soon as I moved back, I came back here.
In,
Yeah.
You sold out.
Yeah,
got
you
in,
betcha.
But I remember when your wife passed away, your daughter called me, and which y'all had been out there and going to church out there, and y'all had been here
Yeah.
before.
Wonderful church we
But
had
she
out
asked me
there.
if I would. I remember she just asked me if I would do her service. She said, "I ain't sure it's going to happen, but if it did, would you be willing to?" And I mean, it's like going to Nashville, I guess, or wherever.
Tulsa.
Tulsa. I mean, Tulsa.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Hey, I'll drive out there." And I mean, I just, I thought enough of your girl for a girl to call me and ask me something. It was special to my heart. I was like, "Dude, I will. I'll take off and drive every how many hours to Tulsa to do a service."
Yeah.
And it wasn't long after that you got back, moved here, and then got in church. And it all just started to connect. I mean, we've been friends for a lot, good, decent. I mean, we just like a lot of my friends. I think we
Right.
talked to them a lot. And then next thing I know, boom, y'all was in church, and wow, y'all got in.
Well, the day that she passed away, of course, my parents came out there, and of course, Kaylee was here, and she drove out there.
Yeah.
And then Dylan, my son Dylan, and his wife drove out there. And we were going to spend the night, and so we decided, well, there's no reason to be here. We need to go back to, because she was in Tulsa.
Yes,
when
that's-
she
I remember
did what
that.
she did. But so we drove back to Newark, and we went to church that Sunday. I went with my parents to another church, and I had gone to church there all my life. everybody I knew had been married there, buried there. I had started church
Yeah.
when I was a baby there. And so I thought, well, I'm going to go with Mom and Dad
I
to
did the same
church. I
thing.
went there, and the person walked around, and my kids were there. I was there. And everybody knew because a lot of people that came in offered their condolences.
Yeah.
But he never said a word to anybody,
Yeah.
not to kids or anything. And so that's when the next Sunday, I was back at Maple Springs because I've been Maple Springs before I went to Nashville.
Yeah, you had come here before.
Mm-hmm. I had went, and then that whole conviction about, well, my parents go here, that everybody I know, so I went, and I'm just like, I can't.
Yes.
And before I left for Nashville, I was sitting there one time, my Bible falls off in the floor.
Because you're asleep.
I was asleep.
Yeah, that sounds about
And so and as soon as I got that, and we got moved back here, then I never faltered. Then
Yeah.
I left. And
No,
both
you've-
my kids
you've
got
been-
saved here after that.
Yeah, you've been faithful.
They both
It's-
got saved
yeah.
here. So
Yep. What a blessing. And
I tell you, it is. I'm blessed beyond anything I could. I can't even imagine what I do to deserve the blessings I've received in my life, in my career. Just like we were talking a bit ago, my job in aviation is I have the best job that I could have. I have plenty of time off. I have to be with David. I have plenty of time to be with him. They work around everything that I need them to work around. I don't have to go anywhere.
that's a blessing, yeah.
I don't want to go anywhere.
Yeah.
I like to come home.
Well, that's and so then after you got back home and like you said, all that situation, and you and Missy's get married, and so
Bless her heart.
what a blessing. Yeah, our wives, I'm telling you, we could, if they could get on here and do one of these and just be honest and talk about us like they want to, it would.
I wouldn't watch it.
It would get a lot of views. No, it'd
I
get a
would-
lot of views though. Every
I'd
woman
probably
out there
feel so
would be
bad.
like, we got to hear this. These guys are idiots, and I just don't know. They are. They're just wonderful to love somebody as crazy as we are. But I mean, they did it for the looks, and then the looks left us. So anyway,
I've only been married 4 years.
yeah, you probably.
I haven't
know,
gotten this
that's
bad
true.
in 4
See?
years, brother. I've been this way for a while.
Oh my!
I might have had my day back when I was 17, but
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
when people look at pictures of you young. Boy, you used to be good looking, and that's Thank you.
where's that guy?
Yeah.
So I took all my mirrors out of my house.
Sheesh.
Thought somebody broke in.
Yeah. Oh, that's the last time I
God
went.
love 'em, right?
Last time I went in a haunted house, they gave me a job application. So
Yeah.
that's when I knew then this is
You
going
leave us a
bad.
resume?
And my wife looks younger and more attractive every day, and I know people.
Beautiful
who say
lady.
they think,
Beautiful
"What's
lady.
up with-"
Sandy's a beautiful lady.
These ladies we got are just wonderful, and they put up with us. Now, okay, so when did you start flying commercial? When you flew, I know you flew commercial for Delta. I think for what?
I was at Atlantic Southeast Airlines for a while.
Okay.
I got hired there in '96,
Okay.
which was a commuter.
Yep.
I mean, $19,000 my first year in the airline.
I wish
$19,000. That's how far that would go today. That's a month at my house, basically.
be some cheap flights. For you.
Well, they would just hire anybody at that point, but they hired me. But they were
Sounds
begging
kinda like
for
back to
pilots
our wives.
because Delta American United were gobbling all these regional pilots up, so they didn't have any pilot base. So I got hired there, flew there for 4 years, and then I went to Delta, and then was there for a little bit, and then got out of that and came back to farming, and I flew at MU2 for, of course, tailor-made ambulance. Flew that for 12 years, and then out in Nashville was air ambulance was a Lear 25 and a MU2, two different MU2 versions, short body and long body, solitaire and a marquee. I flew those, and I did fly some out there before I came back. I was just so fed up that I didn't want to do it anymore. The most fun job I've ever had in aviation is buying and selling airplanes. So
Really?
yes,
Let
most of the
somebody
fun
else
ever.
fly 'em.
Well, you just get to go all these places, these small airports.
Oh yeah.
In small airplanes, and you get to take a chance on not crashing, flying an airplane you've never been in back.
I think
It's
you
fun.
was that in Wyoming or
Oh yeah, I got stuck up there for a week.
Did you crash or
No,
you?
no, I was just looking at elk and antelope, and I looked up and the clouds went in, or the mountains went into the clouds, and so I thought, well, I got to go back. I turned around and the mountains behind me went into the clouds. I'm like, well, this is fun. And I'm in
No
a,
airports
no
nearby.
no
No,
I'm in a Piper
no.
Super Cub, so I find a little road and I land there by it, and had put my sleeping bag back through the fuselage, and you can ask another friend of ours that flies. You could take the back firewall out and you could sleep in a Cub.
Yeah.
So I was laying back there and I heard a truck pull up, and lo and behold, it was a park ranger. I had landed in a national park, and he said, "You're not going anywhere for a few days." So I went with him, and I was gone for.
Oh,
I stayed at
good.
his house for 6 days.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he lived out in the middle of nowhere, and he and his wife, and we
Well.
drove around and looked at elk and salmon and bears and all kinds of great time. But we didn't have cell phones. I mean, the
Heck
cell
of a
phone
good
service.
place
Yeah.
to crash or emergency land.
That's exactly
That's the best
right.
place.
Yeah,
God's
but-
country.
But it's something like that all the time. But it's a lot of fun doing that.
What a blessing.
And you're low altitude. You see a lot of the country.
You
I
do.
mean, this
It's slow flight.
what we do now in commercial airlines and stuff is it's a job. It's the job part. It's not the fun part of your job. It's the job part of your job, and it's a management instead of a practical application. It's more of just managing the airplane
Man, it
because
does-
they
it
do
does the
everything
work, yeah.
themselves. Yeah. So
Now you did fly. Did you fly for Delta or something?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you did do Delta. And,
Mhm.
Okay, some of those. Now we got a fly in here with us.
yeah. Well, it's back
We-
in a couple days.
Yeah, we could always take a
Okay.
break and kill that thing. But we so you flew all over the world though. I mean, I know I ask you sometimes places you went. And
Some
you go, oh
places,
yeah, I
yeah.
flew there. So this is things people probably if somebody just had time to sit down with you, everybody asks you the same questions. What's the scariest airport? I don't know how to put it. Most fearful. Yeah, what was the one you probably thought this is a tough one? One of the toughest you ever landed in, danger wise. All of them.
All when I'm flying, all
yeah,
of them.
no, but
No, but they're they all have a level of intimidation about them. Big
Yes,
airports,
yes.
O'Hare, Atlanta, Dallas, Fort Worth. So they all have a level of intimidation. But as far as skill level flying into, Virgin Islands, because you come over the beach at about less than 100 feet over the beach, and then land in St. Thomas. As far as the most challenging airport, it's probably Leadville, Colorado, but that wouldn't be an airline base. That would be just
Really?
because
It's
it's 10,000 foot in elevation.
Wow.
It's 10,000 foot pressure elevation. That's on a standard day, 15 degrees C, and it gets 105 degrees there in the summertime. So your pressure altitude there is liable to be 16,000 feet.
Wow.
And you try to take off out of there, and when you take
It
off,
just-
there's nowhere to go but about 2,000 foot straight down.
Wow.
It's on a plateau. But there's a lot of challenging airports. A lot of the international airports are challenging.
I watch some videos.
Yeah,
sometimes.
Medellin and Quito, places like that. No, we don't go in the 777 to Quito, but it's very challenging. It's 9,000.
I've seen them land sideways on them
Yeah,
videos.
crosswinds. Yeah.
Little crosswind, and
Uh-huh.
it looks. I'm like, if I was back here in the back, I'd be like that guy. I heard one time story. The guy that the plane went every direction and got bumpy and stuff, and then the dude hollers, or the pilot gets on there and goes, "Hello, this is your pilot. Did you see what I did?" After he straightened it out.
You're welcome.
And the guy said, "Hey, won't you come back here and see what I did?" So that's me when you're going sideways, which I like to fly, but you can feel all that stuff. But yeah,
Oh,
I can imagine that. But the responsibility of having what's the most passengers you might have on? I mean, you fly the 777 in a
No,
commercial?
not in
you did-
passenger
no,
capacity. No.
No, the real big
No,
ones in. So
no, but it's probably 345 people.
okay, you had 345
If you had
people.
that, if you had 777, I didn't fly that.
Yeah,
Flew MD-90s, which was
even-
187.
Okay, 180 something people though. And
Yeah.
that's your responsibility. Do you think about that?
You don't know.
You just fly the
No,
plane.
you don't. When you get in the front, you don't know what's behind you.
Yeah.
You can't see.
That's true.
So they all look the same in the front. Switches may be in different positions,
But-
but they all look the same up there.
Yeah.
But it's all numbers and weight. An MD-90 is, 167,000 pound takeoff weight, and a 777 is 765,000
Holy
pound
wow.
takeoff weight. So, and it's all energy. It's all, all Murphy's Law, objects in motion tend to stay in motion. It's inertia. You have to break inertia if something happens, and it's a little more difficult. But as far as flying airplanes, the bigger they are, the easier they are to fly. I mean, you guys have been in the sim.
Yeah.
You've been in the 777 sim over
Yeah.
there. They're not hard to manipulate the controls on.
Yeah.
Especially, because you guys have never really flown airplanes.
Yeah.
But you could get in there and just manipulate the controls and safely get the airplane on the ground and take off.
That was a bucket list, by the way. That's one of the coolest things. But I ever
It is a
done.
cool thing.
It's
It
awesome.
is very cool.
That's
Yeah.
$40 million simulators. Ain't that what you work?
That's right. Yeah,
Like
I
that,
tell
40
people I
million.
go around the world every day.
Yeah, you do. You can just
And I
click a
get
button and be
out.
any airport.
That's
It's
right. I
just
get out, get in my
amazing.
car, and drive home.
But you don't feel like you're in Memphis when
No,
you're in it.
you
feel like
don't.
you're
It's-
wherever. If you're in Hong Kong, and I couldn't tell my body I was in Memphis, but that was awesome. But so they wasn't any certain one that you just thought, oh gosh, Now with the crash and stuff had like in D.C., you knew is it 33? What was the name of the numbers of those?
Yeah, runway 33 up there.
33.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
I'm sorry, in that lingo.
And
was
I've been
33.
in there,
You've done.
so I know what they were doing.
Yes, that's when you watch them things on TV. I always come ask you, say, so you landed there? Yep.
But when an airplane crashes, there's always a domino effect.
Yeah,
If
I
you'll
know.
notice,
I've noticed
it's
that.
one breakdown in communication or one decision that wasn't made right affects this decision until the ultimate sacrifice there is somebody's either got to move or something's going to happen.
Wow.
So it's all a domino effect, and that was just a breakdown.
It did.
Yeah, you can't point a finger at any one
No,
person.
it's-
Should they have accepted that? I would never have accepted that at night.
Yeah.
I would never have accepted that flying into D.C. like that. I would never have
yeah.
taken that. And not because I knew the copters were there. I just didn't have time to do it.
Yeah.
And you can't see as good at night. Depth
Yeah.
perception is wrong.
I knew you said it's
So
terrible.
I would have
depth
never done that.
perception,
But it's we can armchair quarterback all we want.
it don't.
And I don't know what I'd have done in the
People
cockpit. I might have
died.
done the same
and
thing.
I can make a mistake out there today on the road and straighten it back up. Nobody died, but
That's right,
you make
yeah.
one mistake and it's everybody's always going to point fingers. And,
That's right. And if
But-
you'll notice, any kind of accident in aviation that's happened in the past, I'd say 20 years, has probably been 90 or 95% have been human error,
yeah.
pilot error. These airplanes are so safe. They're so cross-wired and
It
backed up,
is. It's
system
amazing.
backup by system backup. You just don't have complete system failures like we did 20 years ago. We have Doppler, we have radar that predicts wind shear and things like that
That's
that
amazing.
they didn't have,
Yeah.
like at Delta 191 in Dallas-Fort Worth, the L-1011 that got in the wind shear. We would see that wind shear. Now it was a clear day. Got in the wind shear, couldn't recover, and hit in the fuel farm.
Wow.
And they couldn't hit in the worst spot. So it's come a long way. The airplanes are so automated that complacency is a big issue with pilots now, just being complacent about it's going to work. It's going to work. Nothing's going to happen. Nothing's
Yeah.
ever going to happen. Always expect the worst and
Yeah.
celebrate when nothing happens.
That's why y'all train like you do. It's easier to mess up in a simulator than it is in the real
Oh
deal.
yeah,
So,
yeah. First time you fly the airplane, first time you get in the airplane, first time you fly.
So what's the neatest place? Is there one that if you could go land in one today, what's the one that's the prettiest?
the Caribbean, yeah.
Yeah, Caribbean,
Caribbean.
just the water.
Honolulu's pretty, but a lot of you talking about these challenging airports too. When you come into an airport that's out in the water,
Yeah, that's a little
you're like,
different challenge.
because they build these like Osaka, Japan, that airport's sinking. It's way out in the water. They built it. They put an island out there, and now it's sinking like at 2 inches a year. So they're having to
Wow.
build it back in. That's a huge airport. It's big. But
Wow.
the tropical ones are always pretty.
They're just beautiful.
Now the mountain ones are beautiful. The problem is you don't land at big airports in the mountains.
Jackson Hole. I flew in there.
Beautiful Jackson Hole.
Yes, in Kalispell, Montana.
Mhm.
And it was smoky the day we'd went from the fires in California. It was a little bit, knocked the edge off the beauty. But all of a sudden I look up, I know we're going down. I know we're starting to get ready. And you start looking out your side windows and there's mountains on both sides. It's like we
Yeah.
went through a valley forever. And that little airport ain't much bigger than that jet was, that commercial
No.
jet. It was amazing. And I just, that was an awesome place. And
Yeah, all
Seattle.
those like Aspen and Vail, Jackson Hole, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho,
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
one. and you have to go and it's clear. Like if you go in January on a crisp, cold, clear day when the
Sky's
snow is
real
everywhere,
clear.
it's gorgeous. Yeah,
Oh, I bet it is.
gorgeous.
I like flying. I'm claustrophobic, but I like flying. When we went to Washington D.C., I remember flying in there, the memorial and all that. But we got on that plane at Memphis, and it was just still a little bit dark outside, so it was early. We got set down. You're like, okay, it's game time. I'm ready to go. I'm good to go. And then all of a sudden, I sit there, and it took a while. And, you know, they ain't really good and cool right then either, you know, and I like some cool air blowing on me. We're sitting there, and all of a sudden he goes, all right, this is your pilot. We or captain, whatever and he said, we're going to have to shut this thing down for just a minute. They shut it down a minute. Then he goes, all right, we're going to shut it down for longer. So they just went, brr, everything got quiet. Solid dark. We're all sitting in the dark, basically, just going, okay. You know, and I thought, if there's something wrong, I wish they'd tell us. Well, then when they cranked it back up and everything worked, we was all high-fiving and wonderful. So then we took off flight, no problems. So when we got off, we're always the last to get off. Sandy's like, I'm not fighting to get out of here. So we just sit there and let everybody grab their junk above your head and go. And then all of a sudden, the captain walks out. I guess the captain they call him, but the captain walks. He's walking out of the front when I'm walking out, and I said, so I got to ask you this question. So when your computer system's not working right, do y'all unplug it and count to 10 and plug it back up? And he goes, pretty well.
Absolutely.
I said, that's why we sit in the dark. He goes, yeah, that's it. And I said, well, thank y'all for, I was good with that.
Oh, I can't tell you the amount of times I've taxied back to the gate, called maintenance, something wasn't working, and they'll come out in the avionics bay and unhook it, pull it out, push it back in, fasten it, and it works fine. It's just like your phone. A lot of times you turn it off, and you turn it back on.
Makes everything better again.
And it works. So that's the same way. Avionics are the same principle. They'll have a switch that doesn't turn on this switch, and they're also
that's awesome.
Backed up with computer generated things now that they have to turn the switch. It doesn't turn the right switch on, so you have to power it completely down, pull it out, put it on, or just power it down and then crank it back up.
Yeah, last time we run to get to our flights, I mean, it was really more running. We went to Montana, and at Denver, you always park you some like far away as you can go. And then we had to rush to get there and got there, and they had a flat. And I said, that's okay. They take our time, get it. I said, especially if it's like on one of the main tires. I mean, they're all important, but
put a tire on. Don't plug it.
Yeah, I watched them. Put it on because I was just making sure. And the way them old boys looked, I thought, I don't know if them boys have done this before. They're scratching their heads like, how do you do this? I'm going, oh my gosh,
they're pretty sharp.
This is going bad now. But I love flying. And I love everything about it. I'm like, I'd always get by the window and go, all right, let's go. I love the takeoffs and landings. Sandy's like, I hate it. And at one time I thought, well, she's cool. She's going to be the strong one in this. She's like, I got this. This ain't no big deal. She's like, it's all right. And she's sitting there, and everybody else is zombified from taking some kind of medication for the flight. And I'm sitting there like, yeah. And Sandy's over by the window, and all of a sudden she just looks at me and goes, we got to pray. And she grabbed my hand and had a fear in her look. She goes, we got to pray. We're sitting there going, okay, Lord, help us, And then all of a sudden I said, Sandy, don't worry. Don't panic. Every plane ever went up has landed. Some upside down, some in the water.
Some were better. Well, you know that every
up and looked at me like they could kill me.
That's right. A landing is a controlled crash. That's all it is. Every time you take off, you're going to crash.
It's just.
I mean, I wanted to deter you from flying, but every time you take off, you're going to crash.
Yeah.
It's just how good the crash is as opposed to how bad the crash is.
Well,
but I tell everybody, and I've had some that felt like probably some people had a limp in the back after I landed. It's always on a clear, crisp day, and everything's smooth, and you come in, you just boom, and you're like, what is that all about?
We circle.
That's when you send the first officer back.
If you ever circle, and you look out and say, hey, look at that airport, it's neat. They put like foam out there for us.
That's not a good deal.
So did you ever have a?
No, I got struck by lightning
emergency?
A few times.
Really?
Yeah. I got struck by lightning once, and
I can imagine that.
That's why all the static wicks are on the airplane. They're supposed to dissipate, but this was a direct hit, and it looked like when we came back, we returned to Dallas. When we got back, it looked like somebody took an arc welder, and every rivet on the side of the airplane, they just touched it with an arc welder.
It got hot, yeah.
Yeah, because I felt it in my feet. That's the only time I've ever done that. And I've had some.
And that's when you received your healing power.
Hey, man.
This thing's gonna turn
Benny
into,
Hinn.
Yeah, this is gonna be one of them healing power thing.
Yeah.
So, but that's,
I think I had Benny Hinn
that's
on board
cool
as well,
that you can take a shot like that, and them planes are just remarkable. Like you said, they make them. It's amazing.
Yeah, they are. They're really durable. Some of the stuff they
battle ready.
Some of the stuff that they go through, if you saw from up front. Now, it's not a safety thing, but just some of the turbulence and
the
amount of hours that are on these airplanes. I mean, we've got 777s at FedEx that have 150,000 hours on them, the airframe. But they all have to go in a certain amount of time and have a C check. It's heavy, and they take everything off of it. I mean, they even take skins off. They take
really?
everything and have to check this and put it back together.
I watch them come in, like you said, 11 to 12, nearly midnight.
Oh,
Newark.
yeah.
They'll be coming in. Barbecued, you call it?
We live halfway between Igloo and Sauce on the barbecue arrival.
There you go.
Into
It's
Memphis.
a barbecue arrival.
Almost halfway to the
if
mile.
you get flight aware or whatever it is,
Yep.
I sit there and I can tell you there's a 777. You can hear a 777 and tell it's a 777.
Yeah,
It's a big one.
big motor.
And usually coming from Japan or somewhere, and it's just cool to watch them things. And they're about 20,000 feet, 20 minutes or something. They're 20 minutes from Memphis at Newark. That's just amazing to me. I'm thinking they're already getting ready to land at Memphis. And
Yeah, and you know, they're surrounded, all at big airports, surrounded by 4 corner posts, and there'll be 4 nav aids. Of course, this one happened to be in Walnut Ridge on the barbecue arrival.
Oh,
Everything's
really?
off of the Memphis VOR on DME, and it's drawn on off of Walnut Ridge VOR
they'll
as well.
just line up.
But yeah, they'll have one here, 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 and here, and this one happens to be on the barbecue arrival coming into Memphis. And,
I got the ultimate
we're halfway
question now.
between.
Before we
Right over
get
your
done.
house.
They do. I watch them.
they
I
do.
watch them a lot of nights. I sit out there and just watch them. I don't know why I'm fascinated with it, but I don't know. I could never been a pilot, but that's pretty awesome. So did you ever? Here's a good question. I got one more thing that I want to ask you, but this is a good way to. Did you ever fly over Newark? You probably didn't fly, but you went across it several times, probably from Dallas to places and whatever. Did you ever fly over Newark and wish you was back down there instead of where you was at?
Oh, absolutely. Wish I was back down there farming.
Yeah.
But my mom and dad had a scanner,
Yeah, they could take.
and when I go from DFW to Cincinnati,
There you go.
you go right over
You do.
this area, and I would yell at them. I would just go to a different frequency.
Really?
And I would, whatever frequency, 121.9 or whatever they're on, I'd tell them hello, and then go out and look
Ain't that
up, and they'd
awesome?
see the lights flashing or the
Oh,
jet
cool.
trails. So then I did that a few times, yeah. And like the big flood that we had in like 2008, 2009, you could see it from 30,000 feet if you knew where to look.
Wow.
If it's clear, of course, but you could just see the water everywhere, you know, so.
Well,
Seen a lot of it.
I heard a story one time. A pilot said that. He said, when I was little, I used to stand down there or be down there in them creeks fishing and look up at them jets and think, boy, someday I want to
I'm
be
gonna
up
be
there.
up there, right.
And he said, now I fly over it and I'm up
Someday
here
I'm
thinking,
going to be back
I
down
wish-
there, which is where I'm at now.
And
That's why I
that's-
tell you, I have the best job in aviation. I
Yes.
don't have to go anywhere. I'm
Just-
home
it's-
every single night.
It's a good, safe place too.
Absolutely.
All right. One of the best stories, and we're done. But this is one of the things you listen to a little bit on your way to wherever. But I just want people to. Yeah, I think it's neat. I'm fascinated with your what you've done, flying all them places. But one of the stories you told that really was a spiritual application, and I preached a message one time about jets and how the pilot is like a pastor because God flies the plane. The pilot's just moving controls. He's got, you've got people taking, it takes so many people to make that thing work. But when you're sitting in a commercial flight, you don't know the pilot. You've never shook his hand. You don't know his name, maybe his name. You don't know nothing about that dude. You didn't help hire him.
No.
But you trust him enough to put your life in his hands.
And your family.
And your family. And, I mean, you sit down and you don't even know that guy. And then sometimes people don't trust pastors. And I'm thinking, you got to, if you'll put your seat in a commercial plane where you don't even know them, you ought to trust him. Not just pilots, but people that have all kinds of other careers. But, we're putting a lot of trust in that person sitting in that seat. And that's what your church should do, is love your pastor enough to say, I trust my pastor, that he's going to move the right controls and God's going to bless us. He's hooked up with God. I mean, it really is a lot like a church. And the stewardesses are taking care of your basic needs. And when you look at it, it really is kind of like that. But that's what I've always thought. But the best story you told, the best story that you told, when we went in the FedEx Center over there and you seen those 14 or whatever simulators, 40 million apiece, do the math. And when we walked,
Yeah, that's one building.
We walked through there, and you said your kids wanted you to come to school one day and tell, Daddy's a pilot of a commercial pilot, and he's done all these great things. Just what I'm fascinated about with this podcast. But the best story you told was you told your kids, you said, listen, kids, everybody in this place here at FedEx He said, them ladies that clean them bathrooms are just as important as me.
Absolutely.
That was tremendous because, we take for granted the whole team it takes to make this work.
Absolutely.
And that was awesome.
If you take
We're
pride
just
in what
blessed
you
with
do.
the talent. Yeah, you're just blessed with the talent.
I mean, you put your faith, we put our faith in God. We put our faith in our pastor.
Yeah.
We put our faith in, you, Brother Shannon, to teach us, to guide us, to give us food on a weekend, on a Sunday, and a Sunday night, and a Wednesday.
Yeah.
You put your family in an airplane. You're going to put your trust in me.
Yeah.
People that don't know me, I'm going to have a hip replaced pretty soon. I'm going to put my trust in a doctor,
surgeon, yeah.
And they're going to knock me out, and I'm going to put my trust in them. But they are no better. You, I,
surgeons,
doctors, lawyers. No one is. Maybe I'll take the lawyer out, but I'm just kidding.
President.
Nobody's any better than him. If you take pride in what you do, if you're a brain surgeon, an airline pilot, a bus driver, a pastor, if you work at a convenience store, if you clean bathrooms, dump trash, I don't care what you do.
Be good at what you do.
Everybody is the same because we're not all given the same opportunities. I would have never had this opportunity if it weren't for my parents. I would have never been what I am now if it weren't for them making sacrifice to financially support what I needed to do to get where I was. Because I didn't start thinking about commercial flying until my son was born, till Dylan was born. He was 2.
Really?
Yeah, until I thought, and we went to Disney World one Christmas, and Dylan was just a baby, and we came back, and I thought, I'd like to, how do I become an airline pilot? Because I could already fly. I already have my private, but how do I become an airline pilot?
Wow.
And I sold everything I had, and
there he went.
Went and got another degree, and
took off.
Here I am.
Fly the friendly skies.
And I thought that was just all I ever wanted to do in my entire life.
That's what we call
now all I want to do is go home.
We call the podcast Flying the Friendly Skies with
there you go.
David McClain. So
I don't know how friendly they are this day and time.
Well, they're just, everybody's got their thing.
But it's fun, and you look at like your app, FlightAware. You can't believe that many airplanes are in the air at the same time.
That's what's amazing.
And then you look up and you'll say, oh, there's an airplane. And
I love it.
And you don't see another one, but there's that many up there.
Yeah.
You wonder how they don't run into each other, right?
What's the most famous person you've trained in your training over at FedEx? I know you had Jester, wasn't it?
I've had Jester.
Jester, that was in
and Top Gun.
The real Jester.
Yep. The guy's name was Kirk Williams.
There you go.
He flew the A4 in the first Top Gun movie.
Yeah.
And then we have a menagerie of the Maverick pilots.
Really?
Yeah, and the guy that flew the blue one, the blue canopy that Tom Cruise flew, that busted up through him. Good Morning Aviators. Went through the middle of him. He flew that airplane, but just like they tell you, a lot of it's computer generated now. But he said they had to fly. They had to put the pilots and the actors and actresses to get the G-forces on their face. Wow. You can't replicate that.
No.
But yeah, that movie had been out for 6 years before it came out because of COVID. They didn't release the movie.
Really?
So all these guys had retired. And I'm like, well, he had 2 young sons. I think they were 8 and 9. And he flew. I'm like, are you not like the biggest rock star ever?
Yeah, I know.
You go to the movie theater and you take your son and maybe 2 or 3 of their friends, and they're like, that's my dad.
Yeah.
That's my dad flying that airplane. They're like, no, it's not. You know how kids are.
Wow.
But yeah, and he said it's a very humbling experience. But he said we just had a job to do, and military guys are that way. They're very disciplined. They're very focused.
Oh yes.
And they don't care if you're Tom Cruise or David McClain or Curt Howard.
Yeah.
They're going to be focused on their job at hand, and that's what they're going to do. And that's what he said. We just focused on the job. I said, so how's Tom?
How's Tom?
He said he's a nice guy, pretty much.
Yeah.
He says he's a little full of himself, but I said, well, I would be too.
Yeah. Tom's probably not going to see this and be upset.
I don't think Tom will be.
Tom Cruise ain't one
If he does, sorry about that, Tom.
We like Tom, though. I mean,
yeah, he's got a P-51. I'll take that any day.
Yeah, see, there you go. But, yeah, that was now you've had some of the rock stars and people coming
I did a sim tour for Tommy Thayer, who is lead guitarist for Kiss.
Yeah, they came in.
We always thought it was Ace Frehley, but Ace Frehley was always could find him. So most of the time it was Tommy Thayer, and he's an aviation enthusiast. So when they were in Memphis, they came through. Me and a guy named Ray Bobbitt got to do a sim tour with him.
Yeah.
Pretty much that. Cool. We got Thunderbirds. We got a couple astronauts.
Wow.
We got Blue Angels.
Wow.
Got 2 girls that were Blue Angels, 2 females that were Blue Angels. So
We don't
Yeah.
run across a lot of movie stars here at Rosie, so.
you don't Newark
But we
either.
got you. You know, you're one of our.
No,
rock
I
stars,
don't know
so.
these people. They wouldn't. I mean, these guys are retired. They're just doing a job. You know, they got to experience that in their life, but which is awesome. But you know, they don't like to talk about it.
After flying a fighter jet, how do you get
Yeah,
into these things? And
I'm sitting in the sim one day, and I have Kirk Williams in the left seat, who was Jester, and I've got a guy named Jimmy Vonco in the right seat, who was the lead when he was a Thunderbird. He was the lead guy.
oh wow,
And I'm like, I looked at me,
what
and
am
I'm
I
like,
doing?
what am I doing back
You're
there?
teaching them.
I mean, there's not one thing I could teach them.
Yeah.
I mean,
Just got to go through their hours.
but you know, the guys coming out of the fighters, they're all single pilots, so they have to learn
That's true.
to operate in a crew environment, and they have to learn the airplane. So it takes training, no matter what you're doing. Anytime you switch to something else, it takes training. So very good.
Well, the Lord's been good to us, and I appreciate our friendship, and y'all faithful to church. What a blessing. And so, anyway, we on these deals here, we take longer, and that's okay. Somebody will watch it that can learn a little bit more about you, and I'm fascinated with it. So I guess I'll spend more time on something like that than some people's jobs because, you know, like you said, you feel like you're not, but do good at what your job is. Be the best you can at it. You know, them kids was focused on pilots, and then you're saying, no, but these ladies that clean these restrooms are good. They do a good job. They do their job right, and they're just as important as anybody. And that is awesome. That's the best thing we can get from this thing. So
That's right.
I promise you.
And if you tell one of them, have a blessed day,
They're-
they will look twice at you and say, no, you have a blessed day.
Yeah.
Because they think that's a Christian right there.
Yep.
And they're
know
all
that, don't
Christian
they?
ladies, and they're as funny as you get.
Yep. Awesome.
They're
It's-
hilarious.
It's good to be around good people. So, well, thank you so much for tuning in. It's been a blessing. I appreciate Brother David, and he's just, like I said, been a friend of mine for a while now. And boy, it's good to see him every Sunday with him and his family, and just soaking up the Word of God. And they're just doing so good. I'm so proud of you. So, thank you so much. God bless you. Tune in, and we appreciate all the folks that watch all our others and comment on it. If you get a chance, comment. I don't know all them podcast they say like and subscribe and all that. I don't mean a thing to me. I don't know anything. We ain't getting no money for sure, but all we want is people to have something to listen to during the day, or if they want to know more about these things. Anybody that's interested in flying at all would want to hear this. And but anyway, we thank you, and just tune in for our next one, and we appreciate you all the comments and stuff. Thank you.